Can you imagine if every little girl in the whole world looked at her face and said, I'm the most beautiful thing I ever saw? What a world. So if I can make the difference in one little kid's life and make them love themselves because they're really cute singers, then that's what I'm going to say. I'm your granny cheerleader. I got the pom poms and the support hose, and the spectacles, right? And that I'm here to help you. Whatever your dreams are, they're now my dreams. And so mindset is a big part of what I teach, which is why the coaching is so similar. Because for me, as a performer, you have to be very confident in who you are. There are a lot of naysayers in the world that want to bring you down, especially when you put your heart and your soul and everything you love out there. It's so easy to get hurt, to be too harsh and too critical on ourselves, to focus on our what we considered faults or problems, but they're not. They're just opportunities for learning. And then when they come to see me for lessons, I give them the critique, which is working on problems with love. If I don't care if you burp, I don't care if you yodel, I don't care if you spit. Just sing, you know, and it just makes I like to use a lot of humor because kids respond to that, and it makes them super comfortable if they can giggle. There's nothing like an enthusiastic student. You'll ask any teacher, when they're enthusiastic, they're just so inspiring. Sometimes I wonder, gosh, I should be paying them because I'm learning so much. It's healthy singing. That's what I teach.
What's a healthy
you, yeah, healthy meaning, you don't want to get terrible nodes on your throat where you can't speak. You don't want to keep breathing, pushing like this. You develop different muscles and things that are actually hurt your voice. So I teach the healthy way to do the singing. Success is understanding who you are, living authentically, being big love to the world, blessing every human you can. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight.
Let your light shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I.
I have been a vocal coach for 30 years, over 30 years. I began performing when I was very young. I play the flute, I sing, I play piano. I just want to be a musician. A friend of mine was teaching at a private school in Salt Lake City called Roland Hall St. Mark's. It's a wonderful school. And he said, I don't want to teach choir. Please come teach choir. And I was like, okay. And that's honestly how I got into education, was that I went to teach this class at Roland Hall, and it was 3 people on a part, a triple trio of girls. So I was relieved because in middle school and high school, boys can go through a voice change. And when you have just a couple girls and one boy with a voice change, it can be difficult to find literature to sing. So I was blessed with this triple trio and absolutely got hooked on teaching. And so from there, I taught there almost 10 years. And I sang for Utah Opera for 4 years as a chorus member. And I sang with Utah Symphony for a year in their big choir. So that was fun, singing at Symphony Hall. I really enjoyed singing with that many people is amazing because there's such a cooperation that has to happen, and you can feel it, and especially with people who are professionals that really care what they're doing. And you add all that love and all that care together, and it's just, I'm like almost getting goosebumps. It's such a powerful experience. So now I've moved to Florida, and I teach at the Naples Performing Arts Center, which is a nonprofit school of the arts. We have amazing programs there. They put on, I don't know the exact because they keep adding, but like 6 to 8 musicals a year. Some for the younger kids and some for the older. And that's a lot of musicals. They're very time consuming and wonderful. They're truly wonderful to work on. And I'm a process person. So I'm all about rehearsal. I love to go to rehearsal. I love to see the kids like learn and start to grow, and that's my joy. And so that's kind of what I bring into my private teaching. I get to focus on one individual, and I've kind of distilled myself down over the years to what I love most, and that is teaching beginners. So I teach the very new, never had a voice lesson, but love to sing kids. And so there's nothing like an enthusiastic student. You'll ask any teacher, when they're enthusiastic, they're just so inspiring. Sometimes I wonder, gosh, I should be paying them because I'm learning so much, because kids are extremely authentic, and they really almost never choose to not be themselves. I'm just ready to go. I get lost. I just, you're just present with them, and they have all these beautiful dreams. And I want to be a pop star, or I want to be on Broadway, or, I just want to learn how to sing because I sound terrible, whatever their reason is to be there. And it's my job I always say, I'm your granny cheerleader. I got the pom poms and the support hose, and the spectacles, right? And that I'm here to help you. Whatever your dreams are, they're now my dreams. And so mindset is a big part of what I teach, which is why the coaching is so similar. Because for me, as a performer, you have to be very confident in who you are. There are a lot of naysayers in the world that want to bring you down, especially when you put your heart and your soul and everything you love out there. It's so easy to get hurt, to be too harsh and too critical on ourselves, to focus on our what we considered faults or problems, but they're not. They're just opportunities for learning. I say sing loud. If I don't care if you burp, I don't care if you yodel, I don't care if you spit. Just sing, and it just makes, I like to use a lot of humor because kids respond to that, and it makes them super comfortable if they can giggle, and so I find that they get more free, because the more they concentrate and think about what they're doing, the worse their singing gets. And so you kind of have to distract them with movement. Like if you're going to do like something high, you might throw your arm up while you're doing it. Well, they're not thinking, they're just singing without trying. And that's their true voice. And so I get to hear that, we get to see that. So that's kind of how I teach. But my biggest thing is the mindset, the understanding the difference between an opinion, a criticism, and a critique. So if I'm allowed to tell you what I say, I an opinion is just an opinion. She has a red shirt on. I don't like that red shirt. It's just, it makes no difference in your life. You note it. You might say, oh, I agree, or I disagree. A criticism has an edge. It might have a dig, or it might have well, she looked good, but that wasn't the right song for her. Okay, it's partially an opinion, but it's also kind of meant to dig a little, and those are the ones that can hurt. And so you have to really focus on the fact that you've worked hard, you know your music, you've done your best. And then when they come to see me for lessons, I give them the critique, which is working on problems with love. So, say they sing loud and they yodel, okay, which happens a lot with children because the tongue is such a big part of singing. And so they look at you like, oh my gosh, I just yodeled in front of somebody. And then we can talk about it, and it's fascinating to watch their minds start to grasp the idea of, separating out what an opinion, what a critique is, and what a criticism is, and also to just kind of flesh out all the crazy words that music can have. Like there's this singing. This is my favorite story from the last week, okay, from one of my students. She came to me and she goes, that thing, and she's adorable, and she doesn't really always know the words, but she knows how to express it. So I love this about her. That thing where you sing and there's like two vowels and you're supposed to sing the first one? I said, yes. And she said, I've been thinking about that this week. And then she gave me a demonstration of what she'd been doing. And I almost fell on the floor crying because it's a word called diphthong, which is a very strange word, but it means two vowel sounds in one. For example, the word I, two vowel sounds, one letter. So you always have to sing the first one. Like you don't want to sing I, right? I love a parade or whatever, you might sing from there. And so vowels are super important. So she was thinking about it and I thought, this little sweetheart is 8 years old and she is so serious about her singing that she is thinking about diphthongs while she's away from me. I was just thrilled. I can't tell you how much that warms my heart because that means that I'm doing her dream. Because if it's not something that kids want to do, as you well know as a mom, they don't really want to do it. If they want to do it, it's easy to get them to go do that. And so that's when you're helping kids is when they start to take what you're saying to apply to their dream. And I that's my favorite part of it.
What age are you teaching? At age of 2?
I start at 7.
7.
The theory is that children's ears don't really develop fully until they're 7. So have you ever heard a group of kids singing and it sounds like some are yelling and some have no pitch at all? That's because they can't hear it, And I adore that singing. I taught young kids for so many years in my teaching that when like a group of 6-year-olds or 7-year-olds are singing together, it's just joy for me. I don't care about pitch, But when they come to me about 7, although I have taught 5-year-olds because their pitch is so good, they're so talented that I take them young. But 7, 8, 9, I think my oldest student right now is like 16.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's quite a range. And like I said, they each have their own reasons for being there. So one thing I love about my job is that every half an hour, your world changes. There's a new kid, there's a new issue, there's new warm-ups. And so it can't get boring. Every half hour you change,
So you said you do face-to-face. That's what you're currently doing, or you also do online. How do you do online with the vocal?
Well, I never thought it would be possible because I'm extremely dependent on my ears. After like with any job, you hone your skills. And sound has always been incredibly important to me. It didn't matter the sound, just sound. And so when I started teaching, I started honing my ears because I love sound and I've been listening to it. I have been trying to sound like every singer on the radio since I could sing. If Johnny Cash was singing, I wanted to sound like him, It didn't matter. And so I have this fascination. So when I thought about teaching online, I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to hear these people, not like I'm used to, because I'm very specific. In fact, I have this really funny thing that happens is that I can tell when people are getting sick, my students. I can tell their mothers days before because I know their sound in my head so well that when they open their mouths, I can say, oh, her sinuses are swollen. Like it's just one of those things. And so one of the mothers who for some reason, she had twins and I could tell with them flat. I knew when they were getting sick. So when they were 5 and they wanted to take lessons. And so I was like, okay, a half-hour lesson for a 5-year-old, that's a really long time. So the twins split and they each got 15 minutes. And so I taught these sweet babies for 2 years their little 15-minute lessons. And one time when one girl's name, I think it was Samantha, and I said, oh, she's going to be sick in the next couple of days. And she's like, what? She's been fine. I was like, well, I think I heard something. And then 2 days later, she called, she said, Maria, she's sick. And I said, oh, I'm going to have to listen for that, like make myself, because if I find a sound that I want to listen for, then I train myself, And so I was nervous about that when I went online. But when the pandemic happened, if I didn't teach online, I had no job, because they were doing in-person lessons, but I have asthma and I was really nervous about hospitalization, So I had to learn how to do it online. And the key for me was getting really good earbuds so that I could hear what I wanted to hear. And also, I had a student last time, this is actually brand new for me. She had a microphone, like a headset with the microphone. Oh, so much better to hear her. So I'm going to definitely ask all my students from now on to have that headset. The only other problems I run into is I can't play the piano and then sing. It's just off. So when I do warm-ups, um, I will say, okay, I'm going to shut you off and I'm going to pretend that you sound amazing, and so then I'll just warm them up and they can hear it. I can't hear them, but I don't really care to hear the warm up. You know what I mean? It's just a matter of getting their voice ready to sing. And so I teach all technique through song, meaning if I'm going to work on a crescendo or, getting louder, then I'm going to find a place in whatever song they're in love with right now, and we're going to work on that crescendo. So that's easier to do online. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect.
Because it's
Perfect.
yeah, and you can use like you can do stuff like that you're like get bigger, get smaller, and it really helps them again to like forget that they're singing, which sounds like a crazy idea, but when you try to sing, you tense up a lot. So, technique for my babies, of course, I call them my babies, but they're really not. They're adorable. But they get a lot of technique from me. Good breathing, good diction is what we call how you pronounce your words, or articulation, um, tone, different techniques. I still teach all that stuff, but it's through their songs rather than some teachers will spend time on just technique. I remember in my lessons, we would spend 45 minutes on 3 measures. Just I would sing one, and we'd be done, we'd go back. Go back, work it again. And um, I don't think you could do that with babies. They probably won't, because they don't hide their feelings.
How do you get the kids to practice without making them feel bored or feel forced to? But you do practice anything you want to get better. You do practice, right?
Well, I'm quite an unconventional teacher that way. I wouldn't say that I honestly don't know anybody else who teaches like I do, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. I just haven't met somebody. But over my years, I have come to think about what you just said so often, because singing is a muscular exercise. It's like any other muscle. It has to be trained to the proper thing in order to get its strength so that the next thing can come into place. It's like building blocks, you know? It's like anything else. I always say to them, okay, now if you want to practice, that's the best thing, because I only see you one half an hour a week. How many other half an hours are there? So that's why one of my big things is too, to give them skills. Like, did you hear what you're saying there? Or, did you see how you missed that? Catching their own mistakes. Well, I don't consider them mistakes, but that's what they call them. It's all learning. So as far as getting them to practice, what I have come to is I let them pick their own songs. Now, not everybody believes this. I teach proper singing technique, more classical, but I was talking to my daughter today, who's a musical theater 4th year at the school, the college she's going to, and so we have like these wonderful conversations now because we're kind of in the same industry. And she was talking about going to a neutral voice rather than a classical voice, which has a different way to sing your vowels. And then your neutral voice is just kind of what comes out of you. And then you can study different like country or rap or pop to get the different styles. Okay. So most kids are interested in pop. So I let them pick a pop song. I don't limit them to something that I say you have to. Now that's not always true, because I'll say, hey, look, we're working on this. You're breathing. We need to do some really heavy duty breathing. So let's go over and let's sing this really classical song. That's what you work on in this. I swear to you, and I pinky promise, you will never have to sing it in public. You just sing it with me. And I don't even insist they take it home and practice unless they want to. What they take home and practice is the songs they love. They love them. They put them on every day. They're going to put them on anyways. And that's kind of where I've come to. They're going to put their favorite songs on anyways. Why not take your lesson out of something they're already doing, creating that habit, you know? I have a friend, his name is James Klein, and he teaches guitar. And he said something brilliant one day that changed my teaching as well. He said, okay, you want to build the habit of playing your guitar, practicing every day. He said, okay, so let's start with something absolutely ridiculous. Okay, how about this? For the next week until I see you, all you have to do is go over, pick up your guitar and put it back down and go on your way. Now, if you want to play, stop and play. But the habit is to walk to your guitar once a day and pick it up. So then the next week he would add something to that. And I thought, what a brilliant way to build in a child, not only a habit, but a technique that he can take to other things in his life. Start small.
I feel like sharing something that I feel that might be of any benefits. My son, he loves swimming. They being in the pool almost every day. And then he loves it. He didn't know how to swim at all. And then we put him into this float suit, and then he wouldn't sink to start with. And he was just swimming around and then thinking he could swim. And we call it a super suit. We said, when you put on this super suit, you can go anywhere. And then he was swimming all like the whole year. And then one day we said, you're ready. We think you're a big boy. You don't need your super suit anymore. And then he took it off. The first day, he jumped in without knowing that he would sink. And then he sank. It's like, I'm sinking. But next day, guess what happened? Straight away, he was swimming. Just because he loves doing it. Every time you ask him to do something, pack up your toys. No. Let's go, get ready go jump in the pool. Drop everything, jump in the pool. Because he loves doing it. And my daughter, she loves gymnastics. So she does this handstands and cartwheels and with her friends. You don't need to ask her to, you have to practice. She just wants to do it every day. The same thing, because she loves it. So that's why I call effortless, because you love it so much. You're practicing, but you don't feel like you are making an effort. And then of course you're going to do well. That's why you let the kids practice and then pick what they love. And then they will get better at it.
I love that. That is absolutely, it is effortless. And, I find the same with myself, as I've just started my sort of a personal awareness journey in June. So a lot of this stuff is still very new to me, but I'm finding that the more I become authentically myself, celebrate and enjoy who I am, it's becoming effortless, just like you just said. It's the practice, it's the daily grind, but it's not a grind. It's not when you're doing something you love. I don't know about you, but I can get lost in it. Even my lessons, I have to put my eyes on the clock because I will teach them till the cows come home. I don't get bored. And so I have to be like, okay, you have to go now. And I have this one sweet little boy who's always like, oh, is it over already? And I just love that.
Do you teach all different types of music?
Yes, I do. It's, for me, it's healthy singing. That's what I teach.
What's a healthy thing?
Healthy meaning, you don't want to get terrible nodes on your throat where you can't speak. You don't want to keep breathing, pushing like this. You develop different muscles and things that are actually hurt your voice. So I teach the healthy way to do the singing, which is classical. And then, because I'm not a pop singer, that's just not me. I'm more like a Torchlight, Ella Fitzgerald. That's more my style, And so they often have to teach me about the style of the song. But I know, like, there are certain techniques you do with pop, there's certain techniques you do with country, there's certain techniques you do with different styles of music. And a lot of that has to do with how you say your vowels, which sounds crazy, but it's true. Musical theater, you'd never sing like the diphthong. We were talking the two vowel sounds in one. You'd never sing the second vowel. It sounds unclear to our ears when we hear like musical theater or somebody. But if you hear it in pop, we don't even hear it because that's the style that happens. And so, helping children to understand style, the style they like. And, just having them, I say, go watch every video you can find of this song. You'll find every video. and critiquingly look at it. I like how she sang that word. Ooh, she took a good breath. Ooh, no, I don't want to sing like that. Those are all useful experiences. And art is imitation at all levels. So if you want to learn how to paint Monet, you're going to have to study his technique. And then you incorporate it to who you are and make it, right? And so that is the same with music. It's the same with dance. It's all the same.
I'd like to actually hear you sing just even whatever thing that you...
I would love to sing for you. You want me to sing something right now?
Yeah. What's
Oh,
your
a
favorite?
Christmas song.
Yeah.
Oh, Christmas. Yeah, I'm a Christmas girl. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more. Through the years we all will be together, if the fates allow. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love people who can sing and beautiful voice. Oh, I love it. I was going to ask you about your personal, you said you went on your journey. What kind of journey are you talking about?
Oh, I love to share my story because I used to say I paid the price and I don't want anybody else to pay the entrance fee. They can have my t-shirt. They can have my t-shirt. They're not going to pay the entrance fee, and so that's sort of where I started. Well, we'll go back a few years. I have a severe arthritis and have no mobility at this time in my life. I'm learning how to walk again and all those things. So I have a bunch of physical challenges. And for years, I was on pain medication from the doctor. But in April, I was on the max amount of morphine you can take and the max amount of Vicodin you can take, which are two extremely powerful painkillers. But it's what I call the deception of the gradual. You eat one cookie one day, and then next you eat one and a half, and then the next day after that you eat two cookies. You see what I'm saying? It's a deception, and you don't realize you're doing it. And that's sort of where I was, because the more you get entranced in that drug fog, is what I call it, the more you can't think. And it sounds crazy, but that's the way it was. So April, I found myself maxed out on all this. I'm still in pain. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here? And then I lost my health insurance. And I found myself running around like I was a drug dealer, like, oh, what doctor can help me get my drugs for my pain? And I stopped myself one day and I was like, what are you doing? No. And so I cold turkey quit both of those in May and spent a month of truthfully hell coming down off of those medications was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. But I made it through it. And in June, end of June, I literally woke up one morning and said, I'm different. And my brain, I kept telling people, I feel like I can feel blood in different parts of my brain that I've never felt before, especially right here, whatever's here. I kept feeling the blood flow. And then it just was this momentum of all the things I think I've suppressed, all those years of the fuzz and it all sprang forward, because I had been saying for years, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am anymore. I'm laying in a bed. I have all this medication in me. Who am I? I just didn't know. And so when I woke up in June, I was like, oh no, I will never do that again. And I had come out of a 20-year, very difficult marriage 2 years before that, and had basically just fallen apart. So, that was part of it too. So I woke up and I was like, oh no, life by my terms. I'm going to figure out who I am. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my thinking. I'm going to, and so I just started to jump in with both feet to discover who I was again. Was I the old me? Am I the me that I was the last 2 years? Who am I in the future? And so it was all these questions. And I got a hold of a book called The Ultimate Coach by Amy Hardison and Alan D. Thompson. And that book revolutionized my life. When I first started to read the book, I didn't read it about me. I just read it about Steve, because the book is about an amazing coach. His name is Steve Hardison. And he is amazing. From what I see, I don't have a personal relationship with him, but I see what he posts, I see who he is, and he's a very beautiful human whose lifelong quest is to love at the purest form. And that's who I am. And so when you start to read the book as intended, you read the back of the book first, which has a series of questions. And then you read the first 3 pages of the intro that Steve wrote. And in there are questions. And he asks you to read the book about you, not about him. And so once you start to really, we just finished up with a book reading. There's a Facebook group called The Ultimate Coach, The Book of Being. And we just finished up a reading last Wednesday. And it was the most powerful thing, listening to other people read the book, but listening about me. I can tell you one example of how this is affecting my life. There was one night where his wife wasn't there for the book reading, and Steve had said, some things that he said, he felt free to talk. And one of the things he had talked about was how a story about how he has tenacity. I mean, unlimited. He will do what his heart tells him to do. And he had done this particular thing, and I thought, that is the most outrageous, tenacious thing I've ever heard of. And I was like, but I would do that. That means I'm tenacious. That means I'm adventurous. That means I'm all those things I was just thinking about Steve. And that's how you read the book. And suddenly you realize that is a part of me. I never recognized that in myself before. Or you might say something different. It's just every night you hear something different. In the book reading, it was twice a week. And it just has changed my life. And not only that, but there's a Facebook group called The Ultimate Coach. And the people on there, when I came into the group when they had a big worldwide conference, basically, an ultimate meeting. And it was 4 hours of different people from around the world talking about being and talking about the book, because we all love the book. And so I remember sitting there crying. I had to turn my video off because I was crying so hard. And I thought, I found my people. I felt home. And it was so amazing after those 2 years of being so, excuse me, for being so sad, for lack of any other word. And then coming off that medication, my brain opening up, and then this book and learning about myself. It's revolutionized my life. And now, like I said, I don't want anybody else to pay the price that I did. So my goal from now on is to just put myself out there in the world and be myself. I promised myself I would be authentic and that I would always speak the truth in love, because I've held my voice. Even though I'm a singer, I haven't sung for 20 years out in public. That's not being me. So it's just, that's the process of this wonderful book. And I'm going to read it again because I keep getting a jewel every time I read it. And when, it's not for everybody. And I'm not saying, oh, everybody has to read this, but honestly, I believe everybody should read it. And if you can grasp the concept of learning about yourself through an inspirational human being that's just an amazing human. That's for me. That's my life. I'm gonna help people. I'm gonna be authentic, and nobody's gonna pay that price.
Oh, beautiful. I heard lots of stories that people have shared about how Steve, his book has changed people's lives. Yeah, I heard lots of amazing stories.
I just felt it was like the end of that old person.
Okay.
It was like there, I just took a stop,
How did you said the following month after you stopped all your medications, it's like hell. I heard a lot of people who are really on heavy medications, and it would be so hard for them to get off, and you really depend on them, even though it's prescribed. Yeah.
Oh, you're addicted, believe me. The thought of going off the medication was worse than almost anything at the time. But when I decide to do something, I do it. And that's just the way I am. And I had come to the end of myself. I didn't know me nothing that I saw when I looked at my life reflected me at all. I had gone so far in the opposite direction. Suicidal. Yes, that was on the table. Um, you know, and when you wake up one day and you're like, I'm running around like a drug addict. I don't know who I am anymore. What are you doing? You're 55 years old, get a grip. I'm yelling at myself about all this, which is horrible. You should never yell at yourself. But um, but so then once I decided, the medication was the hardest thing I've ever done. It felt like there were a million ants under my skin and they were trying to get out. Just crawly skin, heart palpitation. Actually, I talked to a doctor. He's like, you should never have done it. He said you could have easily died from that. But I'm a dog with a bone and I don't know what's better for me sometimes. And I just decided to do it.
Okay. So you're not on any medications anymore?
No pain. Just Tylenol or ibuprofen.
Wow. What did you do?
You just decide this is it.
Wow.
And when you decide that for yourself, it happens.
Oh.
People can tell you your whole life, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. But until you decide and you reach the end of your rope, where you're just on a thread, you've got nothing to lose.
That's the word. You got nothing to lose. That's really
nothing to lose.
Yeah. That's when people hit the rock bottom, and then
That's
you have to go
am.
up, right?
What else did I have? I'm addicted to medication. I don't know who I am. I'm 55. I'm divorced, second divorce. Like you could say all these horrible things, and of course I had to deal. I'm still, I'm not dealing with the divorce. I've really come to such beautiful resolution with that in my life. But I'm not saying things won't come up in the future, but for now I feel such contentment. I actually met his girlfriend a few weeks ago at my daughter's senior project, and because I spent a day of mindfulness and practicing to be loving and to be the person to be genuine and authentic when I met her, that it was smooth and beautiful and I felt like myself, and I could honestly from my heart bless them. I could bless them, because in any relationship, there's two sides. I can't just sit and look at the other partner and say, you. No. Maybe there's things he did that were worse, and maybe there's things that I did were worse. But the point was that we weren't cooperating, and both of us were the problem. So, and how long, the other thing for me was how long am I going to, when do you stop? Okay, if you're mean or you're angry with something, when do you decide to stop? When's that day? And so that's always kind of what I'm working towards now. If not now, then when?
That's a beautiful question. I love
Yeah.
that
So,
question.
and I think because of that, that experience that I had, I am my word for 23 is fearless. I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Beautiful. What led to your so independent on drugs? and so like have the arthritis. So remember, everything we have, it's really inside and then manifested outside, right?
My childhood is a lot of my reason where I ended up. And I mean that with the most respect to my parents that I can possibly give, and all the love, because I know they did everything because they loved me and they didn't know that it was hurting me. And I've forgiven them for that. That's not, we are where we are. And I love them. They've also given me a beautiful life and wonderful things. So I don't choose to remember the old, but I will share with you a few things. I have been overweight since I was 9. I don't know if a tragedy, something happened to me, but it was like I was super skinny, and then all of a sudden I just got heavy, and have been gaining weight since that day. And my whole life, I heard, "You have such a pretty face. Why can't you lose weight?" The positive attached to, "This is only true if this is true. So your beautiful face, but the rest of you is totally unacceptable and ugly." That's my child mind. Um, I am a hypersensitive person, an HSP, so I have empathy, out the gazoo, so to speak. And if I saw a dead kitty, I would bawl my eyes out. My heart would squeeze, and I would cry. And I lived on a mini farm, and my parents were always like, "Maria, animals die," and I couldn't, because they're not that way. They're not hypersensitive. So they didn't understand that I could really feel the death of this kitten in my heart, like it happened to me. And for them to say, "You cry too much," it's, all those things. "You're too sensitive, you cry too much." Uh, and then, and I could go on and on. And one of, honestly, the biggest things with the eating is that they lied to me out of love. Okay. And what I mean by that is I could not eat animals or meat that had bones in it. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't open my mouth and put that in. I would have to be sick. So if I mean on the farm you eat everything. A squirrel, you name it. That's uh, little Maria could not handle this at all. And so they would lie to me about what I was eating. "Oh no, it's burger." No, but I'm eating bison or elk or deer or a squirrel. I didn't know. They told me it was beef. It tasted terrible. I knew that. But so there was all this lies around food. And because it was this daily grind from 9 until 5 years ago when I finally told him it's no longer a subject, um, that set off in me the negative thought, "I am not worthy. I'm not worthy of love." Um, my father is awesome. He's a wonderful, very knowledgeable man. But every time I say something, he says to me, "No, this is what it is." Now, he doesn't mean to do that, but as who I am, right? Who I am, that was a deep wound for me. And so, fast forward to a really tough marriage with lots of harsh words and no violence at all. But words, emotions, anger. Oh my gosh, so much anger that I just started to move inside and take my children with me to protect our hearts, to protect all of us. And then you start down that slippery slope. I start gaining weight because I'm not paying attention to myself. I want to protect my kids. I want to keep them out of here. I want them to have kid lives and not this horrible home life. And and you just lose yourself. And that's what happened. And I just kept eating and eating and gained so much weight. I've actually lost a bunch right now. Once my family started letting me deal with my problems and not reminding me how I'm failing every day. They didn't mean to do that, but that's what it ended up to be here. It's my story, not theirs. Um, and so the marriage got worse. I had some health issues. He stopped going to appointments or diagnoses things with me and the resentment builds, I pull farther and farther into my shell, not noticing what's going on around me. And then you get divorced and you wake up and you go, where in the world am I? What just happened? And so that's how I got there. It's the low self-worth that did not serve me my whole life. Because if you don't love yourself, everything else falls apart. You can't have the deep relationships you need. You can't show your girls what it's like to be a strong woman. You can't pour into your neighbor whose husband just died. You can't do those things. And so I think that's what started me on the journey. You know, this is not who I am. And I'm going to find out who I am. And I'm going to be that person. And I'm going to be happy.
That's exactly, totally. So you said you're just starting the journey in May, this May.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh.
It's just been so amazing to find me again and the new me. And, you know, I was coaching with Chris Chitty, and I looked at him one day on the Zoom call. I was like, Chris, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like to eat. I don't know how I like to dress. I couldn't even decorate this is the truth. I couldn't even decorate my house because every time I went to decorate like I used to decorate, it didn't fit. It wasn't me anymore. And I didn't know why I was just like letting the house go to you know, nothing, because I couldn't create because I was creating this new me. And so once I started to realize that, then the creative person that I am, that just starts to flow out of you. And so I'm learning who I am now, you know, like what I like to do. I used to call it looking at, you know, filtering your world through other people's glasses. You know, like, okay, you know, do you want that job? And you put on your dad glasses. Oh, I'm not going to make enough money. Dad won't say that's enough money, you know, or, oh, should I eat the cake? Maria, you don't need the cake, your mother glasses, you know. And so I filtered my world through their thinking. Never was it, Maria, what do you think? It was always this person to please, this person won't be angry, this, you know, always through other people's lenses. So I put on my heart-shaped rose-colored glasses in June, and I'm viewing the world through me now, and it's such a freeing and wonderful and beautiful thing. And I've met so many wonderful people that encourage you. And I can't tell you, I don't even recognize myself, to be honest. I mean, think about a year ago, I was laying in bed wanting to die. And that's the truth. And here I am with this beautiful life. And it's all because of a mindset, of determination to decide that you're going to live the life you want. And what does that mean? You know? And create that every day, every day. If somebody challenged us recently to write down like all the things you love to do. Okay, so you write them all down. And then at the end of each day, you write down how many of those things did you incorporate into your day? Well, if these are the things that give you joy, but you're not doing any of them, then you're not incorporating that joy into your day. And so it's really showed me, you know, I love to laugh. So I need to bring more laughter into my life. That's going to make my life joyous. And it's just little things like that as I'm going along and people are sharing these ideas. It's just mind blowing. It's all I can talk about. My kids are so done with me.
That's a love. You love it. You love the journey you are on. You love yourself now.
Love it.
So that I can just even see that you will go there and then you will have so much fun while discovering yourself. Myself and I have this personal experience from very similar kind of feeling not worthy and not good enough and had lots of fear. I still have actually a lot of fear. That's something I'm working on as well.
Me too.
Yeah, so that's obviously it's I call conditioning, the system that's been trained and being brainwashed. Like what your mom
Thank you.
said.
That's the
Love.
worst.
Yeah, out of love. People doing that, not just to say, oh, I don't like you and I want to hurt you. They just don't know any better.
Exactly. And that's
Yes,
why forgiveness is such a big part of love.
it's
Because
massive.
without the forgiveness of past stories that aren't true unless we keep them alive, right? Our past isn't there unless this was one of my biggest revelations in all of this. I realized at one point that I was acting as my own abuser. And that sounds strange, but I had been divorced from my husband for 2 years. And yet in my mind, I'm still in that state. I'm still reliving it. I'm still living like I'm living in it. And it dawned on me, I am keeping myself in this state. He's not doing anything. He's not even here. What are you doing? You know, that's kind of how I talk to myself, just to get myself moving, not in a negative way, like, wake up, girl, you know? And when I realized that I was the one keeping that story alive, once I killed the story, it doesn't need to be rehashed anymore. There's Be present, be in the moment, help somebody, love your kids, pet your dog, go sit in the earth, whatever. The thought of keeping that mental state and that I was doing it to myself, revolutionary, because you realize how much control you allow your mind to have over you. I never knew you could control that. Who knew? You know, who knew that you could tell yourself a different story, that you could work through trauma and then set it, I love you, and send it off. You know, thank you for what you taught me. Thank you for the person, the woman that you've made me to be. You know, that's how I view trauma now. That's how I view difficulties in life. Thank you for the lessons that I've learned, Father, because I'm a very spiritual being. So, you know, you asked me about May. I was talking to my maker 24/7 in May, 24/7. My faith in the God I worship is deep and lasting, and I talk to him like he's my best friend. So that's how I receive from him as well, as a best friend. And that's the other revolutionary idea that came out of, oh my gosh, I'm abusing myself by keeping this stupid story alive, was I can tell myself any story. If I start to tell myself, instead of saying, oh, you know, you don't want to share your voice, you kind of warble and you're getting old and, you know, you don't sound as good as you used to. Or I could tell myself, practice. You're going to be great. You just need a little work. You're going to be right there, you know, and that's the state of mind that I'm so looking forward to being in until I die. Just
Wow.
in that state of love, just pure love for yourself. And then it flows out of you like a fountain to just nourish the world, you know, whoever you come across.
So do you know that with what you've been through, the experience you've had, and then you are going to bring that into your teaching as
Yes.
children, and the mindset change, and then you maybe even impact the parents. You just never know.
Well, that's what I believe. I believe that if you can impact, well, first of all, I have to tell you that it is the greatest privilege of my life that parents even trust their children to come to me, because I know with my own kids how protective I am. So part of, for me, is that trust that the parents have. And so because I feel that level of trust that they give me their kids, I feel, I'm going to call it an obligation, but it doesn't feel like an obligation. I feel it's the kind of teacher I want to be. Maybe that's the best way to say it, is to be the kind that helps them beyond the subject. Do you know what I mean? I feel a deep sense to affect the young children of this world, because that's our next generation. Can you imagine if every little girl in the whole world looked at her face and said, I'm the most beautiful thing I ever saw? What a world. So if I can make the difference in one little kid's life and make them love themselves because they're really cute singers, then that's what I'm going to do. You know, that's my life. That's what I choose now.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think you will definitely that going to help a lot of people, because really it's starting from the children, when they're young, when they realize, no, I am loved, rather than, oh, I have to do this, and to feel worthy of the love.
Yes.
Yeah.
To realize that you can love yourself that much. I didn't, I think I actually called my ex-husband one day, because of this personal experience that we're going through, or that I'm going through, because I realized that I had an expectation when I married him that he would fulfill my love for myself, that I found my love for myself through him, and that I found the acknowledgement, pardon me, for myself through him. And wow, was that unfair? That was too much to ask of one human. They can't do that. He could never have fulfilled it. I gave him an impossible task and then judged him on it. And so I called him and apologized, and we cried together, because, you know, when you can admit what you've done, it is a freedom that is beautiful. Because you know who Byron Katie is? Love Byron Katie. And one of the things I love the most about her is how you turn it around. For example, you say, he broke every promise. He broke his promises to me. So you go through her worksheet and you like write down every little thing that you hate and that just petty, and all those horrible things you've been thinking. And then she has you turn it around. I broke my promises to him. And then it forces you to start looking at the fourth. Well, my family used to say, one finger might be pointing at me, but four more are pointing back at yourself. And so, the real look at going back and saying, excuse me, and saying, I was wrong, and apologizing for that is a beautiful thing. And because I know he had a lot of guilt feelings, and because I blamed him. I'm not going to lie, I blamed him for everything, and it wasn't right. And so that's why I say forgiveness is so important for yourself. I forgave myself for doing that. Forgave him for the way he responded to me that hurt me, but I realized that I was creating that. And that's big for me. Really, really big.
Really, when we change, everything changes. That's
because
what I have
honestly,
find.
it's all we have control over, right?
Exactly.
You can't make
Exactly.
other people do anything. People
Yeah.
do what they want, and they should.
Yeah.
You know, if they're doing something you don't like, you can make choices. But they can make their choices, and to allow other people. My friend put it a beautiful way. She said, "But Maria, are you going to allow other people to look through their own glasses and be okay with their choices?" And so I had to contemplate that. But yes, of course I am. That doesn't mean I have to approve of what, some people, they're just not, they don't do what you do. That's fine. That's their choice. Bless them. I love you.
And then I often tell my daughter, when she's having a moment with someone, either her friends or her brother, and then they say, "What are you going to give your power away? Let people tell you whether you should be happy or not?" And it's, I guess, for the kids, you're going to really remind them often, because there's sometimes, even for us, we forget sometimes when we get in that moment, right? When the emotion is so high, you're like, oh, whatever theory.
Yes, exactly.
practicing, and we'll get better. And then you remind them. But yeah, exactly. I look at it, am I going to give my power away and let people tell me how I should feel?
Yes, and I didn't realize that was even a choice till May.
Yeah.
Lots
of people still don't.
Yes, and that's my mission, to let them know.
Beautiful.
And they can explore that in any way they want. That's the most beautiful thing about it. It doesn't have anything to do with religion or culture or any of that stuff. It's part of it because it's a part of you, but to gain control over your mind is independent of all those things. Culture, family, because you get to choose. You truly do. And until you really experience that, it sounds like, oh, they're talking nonsense, because that's what I used to think. So I know how people are thinking about what I'm thinking now, so to speak,
That's exactly, because you've been through, and then you
Yes.
know what happened. And then you also have I've already found the key. I know how to open the door. And that's what I like about this podcast, Let Your Light Shine. Help others work out of the darkness. Is it because you've been
Yes.
through, then now you can help others and work out of the darkness.
Yes.
That's so
I
beautiful.
love that.
I love what you said about being content with yourself.
Yes.
How do you define success, actually?
Success is understanding who you are, living authentically, being big love to the world, blessing every human you can. I just started reading a book called The Gentle Art of Blessing. And it's all about, like, in your daily walk, as you see people pouring a blessing upon them, and how that gets you in that love state, that high vibration, that heart state, by blessing people, like saying, bless their marriage, bless that child, and just living a life of blessing.
You were in bedridden, and then you feel like you were not worthy of being loved, and then you didn't like yourself, to now you have so much love, like you said, that your cup is full. You have so much love to give, and then you want to bless other people. What do you think? What's the main contribute factors for how your transition from the old you and to now?
It's love for yourself. When I start to look back at my life, and even through all that, I went back and found places where I loved myself. And it was that at some at some point, I asked my husband to move out 4 days before our 20th wedding anniversary. That's a big moment, 20 years. But I couldn't think of one thing to celebrate, what we were going to even celebrate. So I showed myself self-love at that time, to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to stand up for me. And whatever that form looked like, it took 2 years in a bed suicidal. That's the form it took. But I was showing myself self-love to say, I'm not going to be treated like this anymore.
How did you find that self-love?
I have been so hungry for all this that anything I see, I go after. I'm going to try it, and because I'm just so open, I'm so hungry, I'm so ready to do it, and like we talked about before, when you love something, you're excited about something, it's not work. And honestly, like, my love for people, I don't want any other woman, honestly, from my heart, I don't want any other woman to live 20 years in a marriage thinking she couldn't do it on her own, that she couldn't make it, that she didn't believe in herself. She doesn't have to stay 20 years. And if I tell my story, maybe she'll say, I love me, and I'm going to leave now because I deserve so much better. And that's my dream. I'm sorry, I'm going to cry, but that is my dream.
That's so beautiful. I'm sure there's a lot of people, because I know a lot of people, they are in a relationship and they feel like, oh, I can't, what can I do if I got out of this relationship, and this is what I have.
And one of my biggest worries was financial. I put my husband through, when I met him, he had a good job. He was changing air filters in people's homes, for the air conditioners. But I saw potential in him. When I go in, I go all in. And so I said, and he said, we together, we decided that he would go to school. He wanted to be a nurse. And today he has a master's in nursing. So he was our main breadwinner. I teach part-time. I'm raising my kids. I'm living my glory life as far as that's concerned, because my kids didn't have daycare. Nobody watched them. I did. And that was a dream of mine. I definitely wanted to raise my own kids. So when I was considering leaving, I knew financially it was going to be devastating. And that's what kept me there for a very long time. And I have to tell you, I am poor as a church mouse, but happier than I have ever been in my life, because it's so not dependent on what you make. And the faith that I have in myself now to create abundance is big. I didn't see my potential before. And that's big. That's really big to see that in yourself. And to know that I faced the thing I feared the most, which was poverty. I faced it. I'm conquering it. I'm moving past it. You know, it's not where I'm staying. And that was my fear. That was such a big fear, that I would be living in my car. That was a real fear for me.
You must have heard the saying, everything's happened for you, so you can be the person you are meant to be. So you can give so you can give the gift that you were being, or you were born to give, because all the things that happened for you to have all this experience, have this skills and knowledge, and then now you can pass it on to someone else, because I've been through all of this and I know how to find myself and be happy.
And to show people, for me, this was big, that there's no failure. Failure isn't real unless you stop trying. That's the only failure.
Is anything in particular that you would like to share that I might not have asked you?
I have this 25-year spiritual journey under my belt. I've been on my spiritual journey since 98. Deep spiritual journey. I have been teaching for over 30 years. Okay? So in those two areas, I have very good confidence in myself. But when it came to looking at the personal me, all of a sudden I was no confidence. I didn't believe in myself. But that's not who I was, because I was being that in the things that I've done the longest. You see what I'm saying? And so what I actually have had to do is sort of let my business, or my work, my life's work, and my spiritual side teach Maria. Because it was almost like the things I was teaching to my students: believe in yourself. It's a criticism. Don't worry about it. None of those things applied to me. I didn't take it from my work knowledge into my personal knowledge. It's like I said these things for other people. And so I've really had this amazing journey of actually, like, if I'm self-esteem. Okay, Maria, how, I'm saying this in my head, how do you deal with self-esteem in your business? Well, you're very strong. You're a very confident person. How do you feel when you're religious? I'm very confident. Therefore, I'm almost teaching myself that I already know how to do that. I'm just not applying it. And so it's been this amazing journey of exploring who I was always being in these areas that weren't troubled, so to speak. I mean, you have trouble, but not like my personal life, the trauma and all that comes in it. But so I stop and I say, oh, what would I do? What would Maria do if she was teaching? Oh, I know how to do that. I do it every day when I teach. And then it just was so easy to incorporate it into who I am. So that's been the most amazing thing, is just really discovering that I have a lot of these skills. I know how to do it. I just never thought that my words were for me. Be confident, those kinds of things. So, and it's been such a fun journey, and so crazy to stop and analyze yourself, so to speak, and let yourself know, hey, you know how to do that. It's wonderful. Yeah, so that's what I would want to add to that.
Yeah,
and I would encourage everybody to look at that, as you maybe look down on yourself or whatever, look at an area in your life where you are confident. Look at an area in life where you do believe in yourself. That's the same you. You're no different. It's all one person. And that's what I was really starting to understand, that I'm not a religious person. And, well, I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. Thank you. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not just a teacher. Those are parts of me. And it's all me. So I don't know, it's been so fun to go through. And I would just encourage everybody to take a good look at yourself that way.
Beautiful.
It's amazing.
That is.
Yes.
Actually, so what's one message that you wish other people could take away from your story?
Self-love is the key you're looking for. It is the key. We are all humans looking for love. This is a lifelong quest. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're a little baby. When you look around, you walk over to your grandma because you know she's going to give you love. And it's an innate human thing. And once you learn that you are your biggest best friend, that you are the one who believes in you more than anybody else out there, and you don't let anybody tell you any different, your life will be something you could not even have imagined a year ago.
So
That's
beautiful.
what I would say. Please, please get to know yourself. Please love yourself. That's my message.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. How can people reach out? How can people connect with you?
I'm on Facebook. I've just started an Instagram. I'm a little technology challenged sometimes, so I'm spreading my wings, being fearless. But definitely, friend me on Facebook, write me a note, drop me a DM. I would love it. My name is Maria Luz. My middle name is spelled Luz, as in zebra. My mother's from Spain, so we say Luz with a TH instead of an S. So it's Maria Luz Engren. And I would love to connect with you. Anybody out there, please. I love meeting people. I love celebrating who you are and to share who we are together. So please reach out.
Let your light shine. Help others find their way out of the darkness. Extraordinarily inspiring stories from ordinary people like you and I. I believe we are all extraordinary, yet we're all ordinary. Let your light shine.